My name is Joe Carrano. I'm the CTO of the Knowledge House. I'm a self-taught developer and artist from Brooklyn, New York. I was raised, my family is from South America, from Ecuador, but really I was raised in New York my whole life. From a neighborhood that's changed a lot. I'm actually from like Bushwick, Williamsburg area in Brooklyn, and just came up around a lot of interesting people. A lot of people making a lot of different moves. But when the neighborhood kind of got gentrified, it started the thought process of kind of like taking me down the path that I'm at now, which is figuring out ways to empower people economically through technology. Because I'm not really someone who I would consider like a tech. I was never like a techie person. I mostly was using computers to research things. I love just random information, so I would always be like looking things up. But over time, just through friends that I met, I went to CUNY, Baruch, and through the people that I met at Baruch, basically they put me on to computer programming. They put me on to a lot of different things that broadened my horizons a lot. And kind of led me down the path I'm on. So it was kind of like my formative experience of growing up in Brooklyn and like having dealt with gentrification and having understood like the way that like the economy affects people. And then also going to school in the city, which is like, it's like mostly immigrant kids in Baruch. It's like a lot of first generation immigrants. Meeting people who were putting me on to like what even computer programmer was, or like cryptocurrency. We were talking about cryptocurrency in like early 2000s, like 2008, 2000. Well, not early 2000s, but like 2008, 2009. And just really, kind of taking all those different life experiences and thankfully found a way to give back to the community with it. So the Knowledge House is actually, the story of the Knowledge House is very interesting. After college, I had ended up running a business incubator in Hunts Point section of the South Bronx. I had actually moved, this is like 2012, I had moved up to the South Bronx at that point. And I've been living, in Hunts Point ever since. I had always, in school, I'd worked with a lot of people who wanted to be entrepreneurs. I had kind of a rep for like, I guess had given good advice or whatever, so I had linked up with a bunch of people, and I just had made a habit out of like chopping it up, like talking shop with people. Like that was something that I just like to do. So when I saw that I had the opportunity to actually kind of do, at least in my brain, kind of do that for a living, that's what I thought of it. I jumped at the opportunity, ended up going, never having really been in the Bronx. Like I would come to the Bronx every now and then. I had friends that had family in the South Bronx, but mostly I was always in Brooklyn or like Queens. So I had come to the Bronx first time, started running this business incubator in the Bronx, moved to the Bronx a couple months after that. And I started, at the same time, I had also started maybe a year prior to that, teaching myself how to program, computer programming. First I learned Python, and then I just got into JavaScript and stuff. My man put me onto that because basically we were trying to do like a fake startup. And he was like, yo, I don't want to hire a programmer, so we gonna learn how to program, basically. So we just got our hands on a bunch of books, just started, figuring out like how it works, not knowing anything, like just banging my head against the wall. So this is all kind of happening at the same time. I'm teaching myself how to program. I'm running this startup incubator at Hunts Point. I end up linking up with Geraldine, my co-founder, because she was trying to set up office space in like the co-working incubator that I was running. And even though that never actually happened, we ended up continuing, we had a pretty good conversation the day that I met her. We ended up talking a whole bunch of times after that about like different topics, because she was really focused on the education space and coming from like how do we make schools better? There's a lot of failings in the public school system for especially low income people. At the same time, I'm from a place where it's I went to college, but I didn't feel like I had to go to college, honestly, because I went to college for business, and I ended up making money doing computer stuff. So it's I could have just learned this on my own, which is essentially what I ended up doing. But I also had a passion since I had been in the Bronx, because I had seen a lot of people start businesses, but everybody was oh, if we want to do an app or something, we have to go and find people in the city, work with a firm in the city, or we gotta outsource the work to India, or any other country that people would outsource technology work to. And basically, it got to the point where it's all right, I understand now that for us to really, and this kind of even goes back to my experience with gentrification, is if we want our community to have economic power, we need to kind of make moves where there's openings for us. And I saw the tech space as an opening, and in my brain it was like, all right, the tech thing was always about money for me. Like, it was never like, oh, I mean, I think technology is awesome, and I've grown to like it more as I've done it more. But like, ultimately, I just knew that this is a way to get to a bag that's gonna be good. I'll be able to maybe work from home. I'm not really a suit guy, you know. Developers are notorious for like going to work in hoodies. I always thought it was fire. So like, that's kind of like what got me into it in the first place. Besides the fact that my man wanted to do the app, build an app. But so like, I had to just kind of go through this process myself, where I'm teaching myself this stuff. I'm like starting to get like client work. So I had started working with the companies in the incubator, doing little websites for them, WordPress, stuff like that. So my co-founder, I link up with my co-founder. She's trying to reimagine what education is, basically. I'm like an example of somebody who's like, even though I went through the traditional education system, my success, or like the thing that I did that actually led me to financial stability, really came more from what I taught myself on my own. And you know, I wasn't taking online classes. I was, you know, on YouTube. I was reading blogs, like copying other people's code, not knowing what I was doing. So like, because of those two experiences, you know, Geraldine has like a community organizing background. She knows how to work with people, to like link up different stakeholders in the community. I'm less of that kind of like social person, but I had the technology experience, and I had the experience of teaching myself. We both come from low income backgrounds, so we both understand what people are up against, you know what I mean? So we kind of came together and was like, all right, how could I replicate what I did for myself to as many people as possible, as a way to kind of change what education is? And that's kind of how we linked up on that. And essentially, you know, started running our pilot program out of the Point CDC in Hunts Point, you know, just like literally bootstrapping it ourselves with our own money. You know, I had working in the incubator, I had access to loaner laptops, so I got laptops from my job, brought them to the community center, and you know, we just, for every Saturday we're running a pilot, just teaching people, you know, the basics of like building websites. And you know, that went from being like a Saturday activity essentially that we did over the course of 3 months, to school contracts, and eventually to like running, you know, what the organization is now, where we're providing workforce development and like heavy duty technology training to low income people for free, where people are actually getting a stipend for it. And I think it's really important to provide accessibility to people, because there's a lot of smart people, but without access to the skill sets, you know, a lot of things just stay ideas and never become real. I mean, the Knowledge House is relevant now, and is most likely going to be relevant for the foreseeable future, at least, you know, because ultimately there is a need for talent. These companies do need people who know what they're doing. You know, there's lots of opportunities for people who get those skill sets, but the fact of the matter is, there isn't really an infrastructure set up to help people from low income backgrounds break into these industries. It just doesn't exist. You know, I'm proud to say that we were one of the first organizations that really made that even a focus. I think a lot of people didn't think it was possible at a certain point, you know what I mean? So, you know, I think that we're gonna remain relevant as long as the industry, there's like a need for people in this industry, I think. And also as long as there is like a changing industry where where like traditional educational institutions that change very slowly are just not gonna be able to keep up with the way that the industry, the demand for talent changes. You know, so I feel like we're in a position to do that. I think we have roots in the community, which is very important. I think a lot of the value that we provide to people is really like, you know, creating an alumni network, people that work with each other, people who start businesses, people that hire other people, you know, and as long as that exists, you know, as long as that opportunity exists, as long as that like opportunity can circulate throughout the community, and the bigger the alumni pool gets, it's just gonna make us more and more efficient and at what we do, and also expand the amount of things that we can do, because we're not only relying on like myself, my co-founder, my team, but we're looking to our alumni to kind of also, you know, pick up the mantle and do it in their own way, whether that means creating their own business, starting a different organization that does something similar, that kind of works in a similar space, or, you know, it could be a lot of different things. Ultimately, like, it's not just about the Knowledge House, it's about like the network that we created, the community that we created around the work that we do. And, you know, just, I think that there's always going to be a need for that. Like, we need, like, for us to have power in a community, we need to be able to do business with each other like this. At the end of the day, we're in capitalism. We need to be able to work with each other. We need to be able to circulate the wealth. We need to be able to circulate the knowledge, you know? I think that, like, the whole concept of, like, each one teach one is, like, one of the things that inspired the entire organization. And I think as long as we move in that way and we continue to keep our ear close to the ground and work with people, meet people where they're at, like there's always going to be a need for that. Like whether it's for like building websites or like doing AI in like 10 years, or whether it's for crypto or for any of those things, like there's demand for people. I mean, there's a demand in the community to learn those things. People want to learn those things. It's just like they don't see the path. So as long as they need the path, like we'll give them the path. So I definitely see us being around for a long time. I'm trying to, one of our goals as a community is to create an institution, the same way the Ivy Leagues are an institution, like we're an institution. So that's what we're looking to do. So I'm actually really proud of the impact that the knowledge has had on like the Bronx technology ecosystem in general. Like I mentioned when I was first running the incubator, like people were not looking for tech talent in the Bronx at all. Even Bronxites who had businesses in the Bronx was not looking for technologists in the Bronx. They were going to the city, or they were just straight up outsourcing it to another country. So, for me, I'm really proud that now, whenever I talk to startups in the Bronx that do tech, chances are it was either one of my alumni that started the startup, or one of my alumni are working at that startup. Even other training organizations that service, people in New York, like specifically in the Bronx, like the Urban Wild was started by, a former team member of mine who created her own organization. So it's like, it's beautiful that like the impact that we've had through the community is not just like getting people jobs. Like getting people jobs is the goal. We've definitely gotten a bunch of people jobs, and like life-changing jobs. People who were working behind the cash register, doing retail work, making 6 figures now, you know what I mean? Like things like that. But at the same time, the dope part about it is not just the impact of like economically empowering people and changing people's like life trajectory in that way, which is super important and super beautiful. But at the same time, like I'm seeing people start their little businesses. I'm seeing people take the skills that, maybe they didn't learn how to code whole systems. Maybe they learn digital marketing. Maybe they learn design, and they take it and they run with it and they do their own thing with it. And I think, and I keep bumping into my alumni doing things in other places. So I feel like that's a great, especially because I was one of the, early on I was teaching a lot of the classes. So like literally I see people who I taught go from one thing in their life to a completely different thing, economically change up their whole situation up, start businesses, hire other people, hire other alumni, you know what I mean? And for me, that's the prize. That's like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, because it's like I don't want to just do this. It's great to get people jobs and change people's lives in that way, but to actually empower people to create their own things was always really what the vision was from the beginning. So just to see that and to know that like anyone who's doing anything in tech in the Bronx knows what the Knowledge House is. Chances are that they got my people working for them, or they worked with me to help build them something at some point. And I'm proud of that, because obviously that's not what the South Bronx or any hood in New York City is really known for stuff like that. But I mean, we have, but if you really think about it, it is, because like, hip hop, for example, is an entire giant billion-dollar industry that came out of the Bronx. Now, none of the originators really made money off of it, but at the end of the day, that creativity has always been here. So it's like just another tool for people to express that with, and it's beautiful just to see what the like butterfly effect, I guess, of that whole process is. So the Knowledge House right now is making a lot of moves. I'm very proud to see us kind of expanding the people that we serve. We started in the Bronx, we spread to the entire city. We've been doing that successfully for a couple of years now, but we're actually we're starting to like bring our model to other parts of the country, and we're doing that through collaborating with other organizations on the ground in those places. The way that I look at things, and I'm sure Jordan would say the same thing, is that like I know New York. I'm from New York. I grew up in New York. I understand the problems that people who are low income face in New York, because I grew up low income in New York. You know what I mean? But just because I grew up in the hood in New York doesn't mean I can go to like LA and know what it's like out there. You know what I mean? So it's important to us to be able to partner with people on the ground. So we're really proud to be able to do that. Working with organizations, virtually expanding. Also, COVID taught us a lot of things about like teaching people virtually and what that whole process looks like. So we're lucky to be able to work with populations in LA, with populations in Atlanta and Newark, which is a little closer, it's like right across the river. But yeah, just bring it to other places, because I think like the same energy that exists in the Bronx or in New York City exists in other places, and people need access to those things. And it's like if we could help somebody, if we could help people on the ground in those places, not have to reinvent the wheel and just take our model and kind of tweak it, and support that whole system and support that progression, then I think that's a positive thing. So that's definitely one of the things I'm looking forward to in the next couple of years is like expanding what we're doing nationally, in a stronger way. Like we've been testing it out, but like really doing it fully. And I think we're in a good position to do that, so I feel really good about that. The other thing that I feel really good about is, entrepreneurship, education has always been something that the Knowledge House did. It's not what we're known for. Obviously we're known for technology training, but a lot of our alumni have started their own businesses. A lot of our alumni have created their own projects and products. So, I'm interested and I'm, working with my team and with my co-founder to develop systems to support that. And because ultimately, as great as it is to get, one of our alumni a job at a Fortune 500 company, I feel like 3 times better if I could get them a job at another alumni's company, because that money is not only staying in the community, but they're essentially serving as an example to other people about what's possible in a way that I think is really beautiful. So, I think that for us, we want to invest in every single way that we can with our alumni, and that doesn't just mean help them get jobs, but that also means if they want to go another route, to support them in those other routes. And I think the entrepreneur route, especially with the technical skill set, is definitely one of the most viable things, or one of the more viable things that people could do, especially if they're not the kind of person that wants a job, because not everybody wants a job. Some people want to be able to do their own thing. So I want to definitely empower people in the future more and build infrastructure around doing that more as well. So those are the 2 big projects that we have coming up in the next couple of years.